Hello, fellow second brainers. I'm here today with a recording on how I use task management in Obsidian. And I'm going to show you a couple plugins that I use to make this work. Part of the heart of this is the daily note and how I manage this. But the key is I'm using a system that's created by Michael Lindenberger called Manage Your Now. It's really about managing urgency. And it does a couple things, but first let's get the main plugin. So, whenever we check for community plugins, are there updates? Oh yeah, let's make sure we're updated. We're going to look for a plugin and it's going to be one of the top most popular ones. Excalidraw is the most popular, Data View. Still don't know why advanced tables, because tables have gotten very, very good in Obsidian, but let's go for tasks. This is the one we want. So you're going to install this, enable it, and configure it, say with options. And so it's going to show up under here, community plugins. First of all, I like to have a tag on these tasks to separate them from checklists. I'm going to remove this from the file description. So when I generate a task report, I don't need to see that tag. There is a thing I like to do, which is give a limit of 300. So it doesn't become totally overwhelming. And it turns out there's some custom status things you can play with later. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I want a created date every time I make a task. It uses these special emoji icons. And if it's done, I'm going to check that. If it's canceled, I want that. But if I'm not going to use the file name to set the date, I'm not going to use reoccurring tasks right now. Not worried about auto suggestions, and we should be good to go. There is one other thing I do want to do, and that is set a hotkey to make that if I create or edit a task, I'm going to use my Command-Shift-K. Could be Control-Shift-K, whatever you want, but I want a hotkey to make new tasks because it gives you a really helpful dialog box. All right. So here we are at the very beginning. If you've seen my other notes on daily notes, I'll make all the templates available. Every day a new note pops up. I have this new thing where I can add tasks. So if I hit Command-Shift-K, it's going to pop up this great dialog box. And I'm going to say, take out the trash. Now, in Lindenberger's system, there are 3 or 4 priorities. It's the bottom 3 here that I'm most interested in. You can use the 4. But let's say that it's highest. If it is highest, it is critical now. It is something I am going to do today. I will not go to bed before this task is done. I often put in, I want it scheduled on that day, and this is what it looks like inside of Obsidian after the dialog box is done. Just kind of looks like a normal task. Its real power comes when you start using the tasks block and you say, give me a report of not done tasks. And what we're going to see is it has pulled this task into a little report, removed the little tag, and it's kept all the other information, but it gives me this link. And this is really important because this will let me get back to where the source of this is. And this little right arrow thing is also powerful because it will let you move a task out into the future. Why do I care about that? Well, I'm going to give you a little bit more. Let's say I have the task of taking out the trash is really related to being a homeowner. And so in my homeowners, I've got my sort of the heart rolls format set up, but let's go ahead and add tasks. So things that are related to being a homeowner. I can drop this task here, okay, in this area, something that when I'm focused on that, I'm like, oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. And now when I come back to my daily note, that task appears on my daily note with the context of where it came from. And if I click on that context, it'll take me directly to that source node. I can check that task off in either location. I can check it off here, or I can check it off in the main note. And why this gets really powerful for me is, let's say you have a project to grow revenue. I can add a task here with that Command-Shift-K, boop, and say interview new sales director. And that is a high task. It's something I want to get to this week. I may not get to it today, but I'm going to try to schedule it today. I've created it today. What happens when I go back to my daily task? Well, there it is. Now, these are sort of all munged together. And one of the things that I want to be able to do is sort these into groups. And it turns out there's some really powerful algorithm or options you have in the tasks block to make it possible to sort through your tasks and organize them in a way that makes sense. And so I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, so I'm back. What I have done is you can actually have more than one tasks block in a single page or single note. And so what you can see now is above, unfiltered, unsorted, all of these tasks sort of run together. But in this new report, I have grouped the tasks together. So what I've done is I've said, give me all the tasks, and I'm filtering them by date. I'm only interested in the ones that land today or are due tomorrow. I'm trying to keep my daily tasks very focused on what I expect to do today. So using the schedule date can really help you put a task on the day of the week where you want to look at it and you want to see it. But I'm only interested in critical now tasks or tasks that I want to try to do in the next 2 weeks. Michael Lindenberger's system has 3 buckets. I use 4. Critical now, I'm doing it today. The opportunity now. So in the next 2 weeks or 10 working days, I expect to be able to try to do these things if I can get to them. And then it's over the horizon. I've just been clear. I'm not getting to that. There's just realistically, I'm not going to be able to get that done. And then I have someday tasks. So if it is highest, that's a today task. If it is high in priority list, then I'm going to try to get to it in the next 2 weeks. And if it is a medium task, then for me, that is over the horizon. And if it's anything lower than that, I'm calling it someday. Someday I would like to be able to do this. So I want to remember it. But in my daily note, what I want to see is the report of things that I have either scheduled or expected myself to get done today. What makes this really cool is that I can then sort by the order that the tasks were created. That's this plus sign. When was this task created? But now this is really cool. I can group them by function. So the function is, what is the task priority? And it will select by the task priority the label of how they're grouped together. And that is what gives me this really nice report where I could say my critical now, my opportunity now, in which tasks. So if I were to add for today, I'm like, oh, I've got a new task I want to add, which could be record this video for a friend. I don't know if I'm going to finish it today, but it's important. But I definitely scheduled it today. Let's add it. And what you're going to see is, boom, it updated. So this appears here. It feels a little redundant for sure to have these sort of all together on the same page. But its real power shows up is if you make this block part of your daily note template. Every time you create a daily note, it's going to give you the list of tasks that you have scheduled to be done that day. So even if I create it today, so let's show you how that would work. Let's go to the calendar. We're going to make a daily note for tomorrow. Doesn't exist yet. I have not put this little text block in yet. So I'll add this to the template. You can add it to the template. Go back to 9 and say, show me what's going on. And there's a little bit of, you want to make sure these dates actually match So there's a little bit of template or script to make sure that these dates act correctly. You're like, oh, nothing's in here because nothing is scheduled on this day. Well, let's go back here and let's say that I'm going to record this video for a friend, but I want to schedule it for tomorrow. Okay. So it stays here because it was created today. But if I jump to tomorrow, that task shows up. So I see it on the day it was created, but I also see it on the day that I actually intended to do that task. And so it makes it possible for you to schedule when you see a task in the future. And I find that to just be awesomely powerful. So the main thing about this system is that, one, I can put tasks anywhere in the system. So I can, if I'm focused on being a homeowner, I'd be like, oh, I need to take out the trash and paint the garage door. Man, I don't know when I'm going to get to that, but it probably needs to be done soon. The scheduled, I don't really have a scheduled date for it, but let's say that's tomorrow. Just to give you this example, boom, as soon as I go back to today, because it was created on today, it will show up right now, but this opportunity now will also show up here because it was scheduled for this date. So it does show up in a couple places, but you can also create what I call a sweep report. And so a sweep file is a file that will just show you all of your tasks. So let's make a new one. We'll call it tasks sweep. You could also call it the master tasks file if you want. And the way this one works is, let's go to this file and we're going to come back here and paste all this great stuff in here. And now what it's doing is it is pulling all of the open, unfiltered tasks, things you haven't completed, regardless of when they were created, by each grouping across your entire note base. And so this allows you to just get one quick view of like, what did I think was a task that was worth pursuing? And again, what I really love is you have these links that will let you get back to, where did that come from? It came from here. And so you have the ability to capture information in its context, your intention to do a task, and then through priorities or dates, you can decide where and when it makes the most sense to see that task. And you always have the ability to see all of them. So that is how I use Obsidian to manage my task flow. And it gives me a very simple way of having two views. The view that is the context of where that task has to happen, and then the time when I think I can act on that task. So that is how I use Obsidian to do task management with the manager now, manager urgency type system.